All right, let's dive into some digital forensics today. We've got this academic paper on incident response and computer forensics. And, we're going to uncover how investigators use hidden evidence in Windows to figure out what happened, especially by using these things called scheduled tasks. You might be thinking, scheduled tasks? That sounds boring.
Yeah, it does sound kind of dry.
Yeah, but trust me, this is where it gets really interesting. Like, it's this secret window into everything happening on your computer.
Exactly. See, scheduled tasks, those are the little programs running in the background of your computer all the time. Like, think software updates, automatic backups, stuff like that. Convenient, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But here's the catch. These tasks can be manipulated, and not for good purposes. Imagine, like a hacker, they could schedule a task to copy your passwords every time you log in. You wouldn't even know it was happening.
Okay, that's a little unsettling. So how do investigators even find these hidden tasks? The paper mentions .job files. What are those exactly?
Think of .job files like a secret recipe, but for the computer. They tell it what to do, when to do it, how often to repeat it. But there's a twist. These recipes, they're not in plain English, Yeah. They're encoded in a special format, kind of like a secret code.
So wait, someone could plant one of these secret code files on my computer without me knowing?
That's the scary part, yeah. Thankfully, investigators have ways to decode these files and figure out exactly what they're telling the computer to do.
Okay, so where do we even find these .job files?
Yeah.
And how do we know if they actually ran as planned?
Well, a couple key places to look. First, there's the SchedLgU.txt file, hidden away in the Windows system directory. This file keeps a record of all the tasks that have been run, when they started, finished, if they ran into any problems.
So it's like a basic logbook for scheduled tasks.
Exactly. And the best part is you don't need any special tools to open it. Anyone can take a peek. But it doesn't tell the whole story, It's missing some important details.
Like what? What else should investigators be looking for?
For the real deep dive, they turn to the Windows Task Scheduler operational log. Now, this log is where the detective work gets serious. It's way more detailed, revealing not just when a task ran, but who created it and the exact location of the program it ran. This is where things get really interesting, and we can start to see the full picture.
Hold on. Why is the location of the program so important?
Imagine finding a scheduled task that's running some program with a strange name tucked away in a hidden folder. That's a major red flag. It could mean someone's trying to hide their tracks. The operational log gives us those crucial details that the basic logbook misses.
So the operational log gives us the context to figure out if a task is legit or suspicious.
Precisely. Think of it this way. The basic log tells you someone baked a cake. But the operational log, it reveals the ingredients, the oven temperature, and if they snuck in an extra ingredient, we should be worried about.
That's a great analogy. So we've got these two logs, and they help investigators decode those secret recipes, the .job files, right?
Exactly. By piecing together the info from the logs and the job files, investigators can start to understand what tasks were scheduled, when they ran, who created them, and most importantly, if any of them suggest foul play. It's like following a trail of digital breadcrumbs, and often those breadcrumbs lead to the culprit.
This is fascinating. So you're saying these seemingly innocent scheduled tasks can reveal so much about what's happening on a computer. I never thought of it that way.
It's true, and that's just the beginning. We haven't even talked about how these logs can reveal a chain reaction of events, where one scheduled task triggers another, leading to a cascade of malicious activities.
Whoa, a chain reaction. That sounds complex. Can you give me an example of how this might play out in a real-world scenario?
Absolutely. Imagine a scenario where a company's sensitive data has been leaked. So investigators are brought in to figure out what happened, and they start examining the scheduled task logs on the affected systems. Let's say they find a task that was created with an administrator account, which is already kind of suspicious. Then they see that this task runs a program with a weird name located in some obscure folder. That's a huge red flag. Digging deeper, they find this program was actually designed to steal data and send it to a remote server.
So by analyzing these scheduled tasks, investigators were able to uncover a data breach. That's incredible. It's like something straight out of a spy movie.
It is, and it shows just how important these digital trails are. You might be thinking this is all too technical, but the takeaway here is that everyday things like scheduled tasks can be used for bad purposes. Knowing where to look for these clues can be really helpful, whether you're a pro investigator or just someone who cares about their online safety.
It's like you said before, scheduled tasks are a tool. Like any tool, they can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to use them responsibly, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us to something really interesting. What if we could use this knowledge not just to investigate incidents, but to prevent them?
Wait, are you saying we can use scheduled tasks to protect ourselves? How does that work?
Well, think about it. If hackers can exploit scheduled tasks, why can't we use them to our advantage? We can turn the tables, use them to boost our security.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
One way is to use scheduled tasks to regularly scan your system for anything suspicious. You could set up a task to run a trusted antivirus or anti-malware program at set times, like having a digital watchdog guarding your computer 24/7.
Oh, so instead of reacting to threats after they've happened, we can be proactive and catch them before they cause any damage.
Exactly. And it's not just about scanning for malware. You can use scheduled tasks to keep an eye on critical system files. Make sure no one's tampering with them. Let's say someone tries to mess with the system file to gain access to your computer. A scheduled task could spot this change and alert you immediately.
So it's like having a tripwire. If something's wrong, we know about it right away. That's pretty clever.
It is. And it all comes down to understanding how scheduled tasks work and how they can be used for both good and bad. We've been focusing on Windows here, but these concepts apply to other operating systems too.
So whether I'm using Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, knowing about scheduled tasks is important for my security.
I couldn't agree more. It's one of those fundamental things that can really empower you in the digital world.
You know, we've talked a lot about the technical stuff, but there's also the human element to consider, right?
Oh, absolutely. Behind every scheduled task, there's a person who set it up. Understanding their motives and actions is just as important as the technical details.
Exactly. Like, why was this task created in the first place? What were they trying to do? Was it legitimate or something shady?
Those are the key questions, and that's where real detective work comes in. We need to look beyond the code and try to understand the human story behind it. Who created it when, what else was happening around that time.
So it's not just about the technical skills, it's also about connecting the dots and figuring out the why behind the what.
Exactly. It's like solving a puzzle. You have all these pieces, and you have to figure out how they fit to tell the story.
And that story can have some serious consequences. This evidence could be used to catch cyber criminals, protect sensitive information, or even clear someone who's been wrongly accused. The stakes are high.
You're absolutely right. That's why it's so crucial to have skilled investigators who can navigate this complex digital world and uncover the truth.
This has been a real eye-opener. We've gone from these seemingly simple scheduled tasks to uncovering intricate digital trails and even talking about using them for protection. What I find really fascinating is this idea that scheduled tasks can trigger other programs indirectly. Could we use this to not just detect malicious tasks, but actually stop them in their tracks?
Now that's a thought-provoking question. It's like building a digital immune system, where one scheduled task acts as a guard, detecting threats, and then another task steps in to neutralize them.
It sounds futuristic, but incredibly cool.
It's definitely an area worth exploring. As technology keeps advancing, I think we'll see more creative approaches to security, using automation and proactive defenses.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. Thank you for sharing your expertise with me.
It's been my pleasure. I'm always happy to delve into this fascinating world of digital forensics. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about how your systems work and the potential risks, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself.
Wise words. And on that note, let's shift gears for a moment. We've talked about using scheduled tasks for defense, but I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, this idea of those digital breadcrumbs that investigators use to piece together what happened on a computer. You mentioned these digital breadcrumbs and how investigators use them to, figure out what happened on a computer. Can you tell me more about that? What kind of context are we talking about?
It's not just about finding the scheduled tasks themselves. It's about understanding the story they tell. Like, let's say we find a task that runs a program with a suspicious name. That's a starting point, but it's not the whole picture. We got to dig deeper, ask questions like, when was this task created? Was it created around the same time as other suspicious activities? Did someone try to modify it or disable it?
So it's like building a timeline, looking for patterns and connections that might point to something malicious.
Exactly. We're trying to understand the sequence of events, see if there's a logical flow that suggests malicious intent, like putting together a puzzle. We got all these pieces of information and we got to figure out how they fit together to reveal the bigger picture.
And I imagine this is where those different logs we discussed earlier come in handy, right? The SchedLgU.txt and the operational log.
Absolutely. Those logs are gold mines of information. They tell us when tasks were created, modified, and executed. By carefully analyzing these logs, we can start to connect the dots, see if there's a clear pattern of malicious activity.
It sounds like this is where the real detective work begins. It's not just about technical skills. It's also about the ability to analyze information, connect the dots, and draw conclusions.
You got it. It's like being a digital Sherlock Holmes, right? You got to be able to see the clues that others might miss and piece together the story they tell.
And those clues can have a real impact, you know? This kind of evidence could be used to track down cyber criminals, protect sensitive data, or even prove someone's innocence.
The stakes can be incredibly high in digital forensics. That's why it's so important to have skilled investigators who can navigate this complex world and uncover the truth.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We've gone from these everyday scheduled tasks to uncovering hidden digital trails, and even exploring how we can use this knowledge for protection. It's amazing how much information is hidden within our computers.
It is. It just goes to show the digital world is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered.
Well, I want to thank you for taking me on this journey into the fascinating world of digital forensics. I feel like I've learned so much.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the more you know about your digital world, the better you can protect yourself.
To our listener, remember, there's a whole world of digital evidence hidden within your devices. Stay curious, keep learning, and as always, stay safe out there.